It's 5 a.m. and the alarm is screaming, right as the phone on the charger starts blowing up too. Our MC wakes up to his alarm wanting to stay in bed, but after checking his phone and remembering he barely caught the last train, he's shocked it's already morning. Meet 35-year-old Akihiro Mikawa, a systems engineer at a massive company who's totally relieved there are no error alerts today, especially since he's got to get to a huge meeting early. Our guy shivers while swapping his clothes and catches the news showing off all the holiday decorations, making him realize the year is almost over, but his life is still exactly the same. He wakes up, grinds at work, catches the last train home, eats alone, and crashes. It's the same boring cycle every single day. The only thing that's changed over the last few years is he's put on some extra weight and realized he seriously needs to start hitting the gym. He was set to live a totally normal, boring life for the next 20 years. But that day, everything changed. The second our MC heads out for work, a blinding light hits him out of nowhere, and he has no idea what's happening. He whips around in shock, sees the doors have vanished, and finds himself in a total void while yelling for answers and wondering if anyone is even there. He realizes the owner is digging for info with the expert skill and tracking his location with assessment, leaving Ichihiro totally clueless about what these powers even are. The owner is a total pro who finally unlocked the power to create, while the confused guide asks a mysterious voice who it is and learns it's just a support system that sends people to the other side. The guy is totally panicking, asking where she's sending him and screaming for the system to take him back, when suddenly he just starts falling through the air. The system wishes him a good trip, and suddenly the smell of the earth and the sounds of the forest hit him, taking him straight back to those childhood mountain hikes with his grandpa just as someone starts calling his name again. Back when Akihiro was a kid, his grandpa told him they'd finally caught a wild boar in their trap, and even though Akihiro thought it was awesome, his grandpa warned him to stay back while he used a stun gun before they eventually cooked and ate the meat together. Akihiro tells his grandpa that the food is absolutely delicious. His grandpa says he can learn to cook too and offers to show him the ropes. The kid is totally stoked about it. Now, the guy crashes on the grass and starts drifting off even though his back is killing him. But as soon as he remembers he has a huge meeting at work today, he snaps awake and bolts upright. The guy looks up from the dirt in total shock, staring at a bunch of trees and wondering where the heck he is. He realizes he's stuck in the middle of a forest with zero clue how he got there. His big meeting was supposed to start a long time ago. He's literally never been late in. He finally drags himself over the edge, looks up, and is totally blown away by a massive forest with jagged cliffs poking out everywhere. He stares ahead shaking, realizes where he's at, and ducks down, trying to stay chill so he can figure out his next move. He's definitely not in Japan anymore, and with no food, water, or people around, he's gotta find supplies fast before some scary forest predator finds him first. He digs through the bag and finds a lighter, a charger, and some tools. But the only weapon is a tiny utility knife that he's not sure will actually do anything in a fight. The guy sighs, realizing he's just a tech engineer with zero survival skills. So he carves a thick stick into a DIY mace and hopes for the best, until a weird noise makes him. Akihiro spots something black slithering through the grass and realizes it's a giant Japanese rat snake, so when it rears up to hiss, he just pins it to the ground. Our guy picks it up and realizes it looks familiar, but something is definitely off. Suddenly, it sprays poison everywhere and leaves him completely shocked. He spots a screwdriver in the toolbox and jabs the snake right. The snake is finally dead, and while Akihiro admits that thing was super dangerous, he's totally shocked when a glowing orb suddenly shoots out of its body and flies into the sky. He asks what's going on, and the system tells him he's learned 0.03% of a stealth skill, explaining it's a smart assistant that's here. Akihiro Mikawa is just hyped to finally have someone to talk to, but after introducing himself as an owner, he's dying to know why he suddenly unlocked a skill right after taking down that snake. The system tells him he's got 3 main powers called Mastery, Creation, and Evaluation that get stronger as he levels up. But he's way more curious about what his secondary stealth skill can actually do. This lets him hide his presence so he's basically invisible, and he starts asking what a ninja even is and how to use these powers. The system says it's locked until he hits 100% mastery, and he's still got a long way to go. He had a hunch, but now he's 100% sure he's not in Japan anymore. He's in a totally different world. But why is he here if he's not even the chosen one? He knows he's got to focus on surviving instead of moping, so he asks the system if he can eat the snake, and it tells him he can check by using assessment. Our guy pops his assessment skill on a nearby snake and sees it's actually safe to eat, so he gets it ready for a meal and realizes it looks pretty tasty. Akihiro walks right up to the snake, says it tastes just like eel and is actually fire, thanks it for the meal, starts looking for a safe spot to crash, But then he spots something weird deep in the woods. He knows this whole place smells like a trap, and since anyone lurking around is probably a total savage, he figures he better find some real weapons before things get ugly. This guy wanders through the woods until he hits a river, spots a bunch of rocks, and picks out the perfect one. He twists some plant fibers into a rope, grabs 2 stones, and builds a bow. He grabs a stone axe and sharpens a stick into a spear so he's finally armed, right when he hears a weird noise nearby. He recognizes that light instantly and knows he has to get back to it. But as he walks up to the trap, he spots a boar caught inside. He's blown away by how massive the guy is, but then he spots a super cute girl nearby who's casually holding a giant axe. This blue-eyed blonde grips his axe tight, realizing he's the only one who can do it. She quickly realizes her axe won't even scratch the boar's tough skin, and when she takes a swing, the beast just shoves her back and knocks her flat on the ground. She slams onto the ground, the board suddenly lunges at her, and she screams as she falls into total despair. Out of nowhere, the axe slams right into the board's leg, making it groan and spin around while the girl watches in total shock. He steps right in front of her and tells her to hurry up and get on her feet. He moves forward on pure instinct, and even though this giant boar is way scarier than a normal one, there's no way he's backing down now. He notices the boar is wounded and losing speed, giving him a real chance to win, so he tries to stay cool knowing that one hit from those tusks would be the end of him. The boar lunges straight for him, but Akihiro takes his chance and strikes back, sending blood flying everywhere. A dead boar slams into the dirt with a weapon sticking out of its side, and Akihiro is totally hyped because he just unlocked the courage skill at 0.2%. He stares at the boar and realizes he'd be dead meat without his weapon, while the girl behind him just watches in total shock. Akihiro asks if she's okay or in pain, but then he starts to wonder if this blonde girl even understands what he's saying to her. He knows he has to prove he's not a threat, so he tosses his weapon aside and drops to his knees to show he's completely defenseless. She shyly tells him she's okay, and he's shocked she speaks Japanese, but the system explains it's just auto-translating everything into his language, which is honestly super cool. She tells him she's so relieved he's not hurt because she was super worried, thanks him for the help, and gives him a big smile while calling him her favorite guy. He gives her a blank stare, so she tells him she accepts his proposal, but he's totally lost because he has no clue what she's even talking about. She tells him that by dropping his weapon, he's showing her whole country he's peaceful, which is basically his way of saying he wants to stay with her forever. She gets all awkward and admits that's the exact reason she's actually saying yes to his offer. Akihiro has no clue how it happened, but he somehow proposed to her, and now she's calling him dear, while he totally panics. After getting dropped into a brand new world, our hero saves a girl, but because he has no clue how things work there, he accidentally ends up proposing to her. Our hero is totally floored that she actually said yes, and now the smiling girl wants to head to the village to introduce him to the whole squad. He knows finding a town is his best bet, so he leaves the mess behind and heads for the village to clear up the confusion later. She smiles and says sorry for the late intro, introducing herself as Liza, a 15-year-old adventurer, and our MC is completely floored that she's 20 years younger than him. The boy can't believe it. She doesn't look 15 at all, so he thinks he just asked out a kid. But he has no clue the boy is denying everything. She explains that in this world, 15-year-olds are already grown-ups, so he's totally in the clear and can finally breathe a sigh of relief. Liza asks for his name, so our guy stands up and tells her, but she just asks him one more time. She's totally shocked he has a last name and thinks he might be a secret noble, but Akihiro just shuts that idea down immediately. Akihiro explains that back home everyone has a last name, so she should just call him Akihiro and be careful, since only the fancy nobles use surnames in this world. She catches on fast and calls him by name, leaving him stunned by how smart she is and making him realize he hasn't talked to a girl in forever. She tells him they aren't close enough for first names yet, and while she doesn't hate the idea, she wants to be better friends first, making him realize he just made things way more complicated. Liza was totally lost and told Akihiro he was being way too much, realizing this was just another huge mix-up and she didn't even know how to feel. The girl says they need to drain the blood first, and while the guy agrees, he's wondering how she's gonna move a massive 300-kilogram body until she just starts hauling it up into a tree with a rope. He wonders how she's so strong, so he uses his appraisal skill and sees her strength is sitting at 1.22. The kid asks the system what his powers are all about, so it explains that it pumps his body full of mana to make him way stronger, which is the same energy that's everywhere in this. He figures out this world is just like a video game, but since he's a science kid, all this fantasy stuff is way too much to handle. She's already drained the blood, so they can finally start carving it up by the river to keep the meat fresh and cool before the sun goes down, and they have to head back. Liza is impressed by how well he handles the meat, and asks if he used to be a hunter, but Akihiro explains he just learned it from helping his grandpa in the mountains, and she totally gets it. The girl says sorry for the wait and tells him the village is only 5 kilometers away, which totally shocks the boy since it's so close. So he asks if he can ask her a question. He tells her he's already 35 and way older than her, so since they literally just met, he asks if she's actually sure about being his wife. She knew the age gap was massive, but she didn't care because you have to get to know someone first if you want to build a real connection. He thought she'd be totally crushed, but she told him she doesn't care what anyone thinks because she likes him, which left Akihiro completely confused. They've got all sorts of ways to heal up and they'll do whatever it takes to stay in the fight, which totally catches our hero off guard. The kid asks the system what's actually out there, looking for stuff like potions, artifacts, or even that legendary rejuvenation spell. Akihiro finally realizes this is the real deal, proving God is actually out there and might just help him stay alive. Since magic exists in this new world, they figure God must be real too, and stop worrying about it, right as Liza reports they've finally arrived. She's waiting to meet him in Taruka village, and our guy is totally shocked by how massive the place actually is. The girl smiles and tells him it's getting way too late, so he should just crash with them for the night. Aki the hero thanks her and admits he's actually totally broke, but she tells him he doesn't owe her a thing. Liza gets back home and calls out for her dad, and the blonde guy greets her by asking if she checked on their trap yet. Our MC can tell this guy is a hunter just by how massive he is, and when the girl says she had a rough day and wants to introduce them, the guy is totally caught off. She confesses that the guy next to her saved her life and then proposed, leaving Lisa's dad staring at Akihiro in total shock. He's shocked she just gave everything away, realizes he's in a huge mess, so he bows down, says sorry for the trouble, and finally gives his name. He just smirks and says he's totally fine, telling them to let the guy in because he wants to hear every single detail. Aki's wondering if he's about to get killed, says sorry for the scare, and thinks life can't get any crazier now that his 15-year-old. Suddenly, a girl shows up and says she's happy to see him, and it turns out she's Lisa's mom, Tia. Our hero takes a sip of her tea and can't believe how good it tastes. Her dad admits he's totally lost and asks her to break down exactly what's going on. She explains how the big guy fell for her trap, how he blocked her swing, and how Akihiro suddenly showed up, leaving the dude totally confused about what just happened. She says Akihiro beat the storm, dropped his weapon to propose on one knee, and she said yes because it was totally fate. But why is she giving us every single detail? He realizes the guy is doubting him, tells the girl she's rushing way too fast, but makes it clear he still totally likes Akihiro. He knows he saved her life, but now she's totally rushing into marriage even though they're basically the same age. Some guy is gossiping about the nobles again, saying this young lord needs to get married fast for family reasons. But after rejecting every girl they showed him, he went for a walk, fell in love at first sight, and proposed on the spot. The guy asks if he's some kind of noble, but the kid shuts him down and says he's definitely not an aristocrat. He knows he has to pick the right facts, because if he tells them he was a big-shot engineer, nobody will get it since he's just a worker in a merchant's. Suddenly, a blinding light swallows him whole, and he wakes up in a forest, leaving everyone stunned when a man asks if he's a merchant because his wool clothes look way too expensive. The girl admits there's no way she can sew this because the fabric is super slippery. She has no idea where to even start, and she's never seen material this fancy before. Liza tells her mom to quit it. Her mom says sorry, and then the girl explains that her mom actually sews clothes for a living. The guy says a merchant like that would definitely have a massive shop, and that's when the kid realizes he's been talking big without actually thinking his plan through. There's no way they'll suspect him now, so he makes up a story about marriage drama and asks if he can crash at their place for the night. The man is totally down with the plan and tells Liz to show the guests to her brother's room. But when the guy asks where he is, Liz explains he's just away on business in another village. She leads him into the room and says she'll bring some water so he can get cleaned up. He gives her a quick thanks, and man, today was just a total nightmare for her. She says sorry for not having much to give him, but promises to call him over once dinner is ready. Our MC thanks her, and she just brushes it off like it's nothing. He looks at his hand and sees every trace is gone. Then he thinks back to the wedding and realizes this definitely isn't about him. Lisa's mom starts asking about his job and the surprise, and since they've been giving him free food and a place to crash, he feels like a total parasite and tells her he really wants to help them out. First up, he's got to sign up at the Adventurers Guild, and that's when he spots Esto and Liz standing right in front of him. Our MC says good morning to Asto and asks if he's heading to work, but Asto explains his back was wrecked yesterday, so Liz went out solo, which finally explains why she had to face that monster all on her own. She admits she's still a total rookie who needs her dad's training, so he wishes her luck and tells her to stay safe. She agrees, and then he asks the big question. What exactly is a guild? The guy explains he can grab quests at the guild, but first he's got to register at that massive building in the center of town where they aren't allowed, so the girl offers to take. The girl gets all huffy and wishes him luck as her dad says it's time to go, but then Liz's mom jokes that they're acting like a married couple, which totally catches Akihiro off guard. Just as he's heading out to the guild, she tells him to wait and hands him her son's old vest, saying it'll fit him perfectly. He thinks the pants look totally off, but everyone insists they're a perfect fit, so he thanks them and heads out, realizing he needs to find a job right away to pay them back for saving his skin. Inside the guild, our guy is totally shocked to see signs in Japanese, but the system explains it's just auto-translating the local language so he can read everything. A super nice girl welcomes him to the Adventurers Guild and asks if he's ready to sign up. He breaks down the rules, explaining that your rank depends on your skills, and while everyone starts at 10, you've got to hit rank 1 to get the best rewards. There's no point in making him a superstar on his very first job, so let him just knock out missions and climb the ranks slowly since you can only take on one quest at a time. She asks if he's ready to sign up now that he knows the rules, then hands him a needle because they need a drop of his blood to get started. He has to drop his blood on this tablet, and when he does, the stone literally drinks it up, making him wonder how that's even possible. She hands him a guild card to use as an ID, but it's actually linked straight to his soul, so if he dies, the card will show it right away. He's even using cards to prep the guild's ritual services early because he's totally sure he isn't dying today. He tells her it's officially his first day as an adventurer and asks her to pick a quest, and she thinks the job might actually be perfect for him. Our guy is digging through the field looking for that specific herb when he suddenly spots that same grassy vase again. He's looking at this plant and honestly has no clue if it's the right one. This girl says they need to find these herbs right now. The deal is 80. He might run into some monsters on this mission, and even though it's not super dangerous, he still needs his gear to handle the two different types of beasts out there. The horned rabbit and the goblin were heading back to grab that knife on a stick from Tisha, because even if these monsters are low-level trash, he's definitely not looking for a fight. Using his assessment skill, he found the grass instantly and snatched up all 100 pieces he needed. Just 2 days ago he was at his desk job running a whole team, and while he's wondering how things are going back there, she's convinced they don't even need him to keep the place running. He was such a workaholic that he never made time for love, which was a huge mistake because his marriage crashed after 2 years, and even though he tried to hide in his work, he ended up totally alone. Our guy never thought anyone would actually accept him, but Liz totally changed his world when she told him she didn't care what anyone else thought because she really liked him. The guy isn't ready to get married and knows he needs to talk to her, so Akihiro just tries to keep his head down and work. Right next to our guy is a massive bag of grass, and Akihiro says he's finally finished everything. Suddenly, his back starts killing him, and he flops onto the dirt, realizing he's totally not built for this kind of work, so he decides to catch his breath before taking the grass to the guild. Suddenly, he spots something rustling in the grass right in front of him, but he can't tell who's hiding there. Suddenly, a goblin with a stick jumps out, and our hero totally freezes because this is the exact monster the guild warned him about, and now it's staring right at Akihiro like it finally found its target. If they don't do something soon, he's gonna find him, sneak up from behind, and try to rush him for a one-shot kill. Our guy leaps out of the bushes with his homemade blade, slams it into the goblin's head, and the monster drops dead on the spot. He doesn't slow down and lands one more hit to make sure the monster is dead, boosting his spear skill by 0.16% and his focus by 0.08%. He remembers the girl told him he needs a goblin's ear for proof, so even though it's totally gross, he knows he has to start cutting to get the job done. Inside the guild, the evaluator grabs a tray of herbs to check out Azu's stuff, and once a goblin confirms it, he tells our hero to just hang tight for a second. He looks around the empty room thinking he's way too early, but then the evaluator finally comes back and offers him 2,000 vil for the goblin and 16,000 for the grass, making his grand total 18,000 vil. They're almost totally out of wazoo grass, so he's super hyped that Aki brought a ton, and when the hero asks why it's such a big deal, the expert explains it makes this awesome medicine you just mix with water and put on wounds, and they are seriously thankful for the help. Our guy is hyped that he crushed the first mission and finally got paid, and honestly, he's never been happier. He spots smoke rising from the house and realizes Liza is already back, while the girl gives him the biggest, happiest welcome home ever. Binz announces he's finally back, and after her dad praises her for doing a great job, Liz decides to actually cook a chicken dinner for once, even though she's still totally fuming at her mom. Some guy asks how he's liking the guild, and when our hero says he already banked 18,000 from a job, The man tells him that's actually a pretty. He says on a lucky day he can find 2 or 3 bunches, and he's totally convinced his bright future is all thanks to his own talent. He explains that guild work is pretty hit or miss, and he won't be making money every day, so he asks to crash there until he ranks up, and the guy says yes instantly. He says his brother won't be back for a month because he's helping a hunter who got badly hurt in the next village, so he's crashing in his room and thanks them for the spot. Our hero takes a bite of Liz's cooking and totally loses it over how good the meat is, asking what her secret spice is while she just smiles, super happy he likes it. He tells her the food is fire and the meat is seasoned perfectly. But when she thanks him, her mom blabs that she only started cooking because of Akihiro, leaving the girl totally embarrassed and fuming at her mom. The guy says they found fresh tracks in the woods today, and even though it could be a huge goblin or a Goliath, these footprints are just way too massive. It's been forever since our guy felt this cozy, and even though he has no clue what's coming next, he's laser-focused on ranking up in the guild and giving it everything he's got tomorrow. Our hero is right outside the house swinging his club for practice, but he's already totally wiped out. Our hero drops to his knees, totally wiped out and unable to feel his hands, realizing he completely forgot how brutal kendo actually is since his school days. Asto warns that Akihiro has 0 stamina, and if he keeps fighting these monsters for too long, he's basically dead meat. He apologizes for being totally rusty after skipping training for years, but Asto reminds him how important practice is, and asks why he isn't at church praying. Our hero starts asking about the place, then Liz pops up with the same question, so they decide to head out together to see this mysterious spot where people actually pray to a real god. They end up right in front of the church in Torek Village, and the main guy is totally shocked to see it's actually the real deal. Our MC walks in and says sorry, and the lady greets him, asking how she can help him out. Our guy tells her he's stoked to meet her, explaining it's his first time at the church to pray, and when he asks for a hand, she's totally down to help. This country doesn't have one strict religion, so the church is just a chill spot where anyone can pray and kids learn to read and write. Liz even went there herself, and our guy realizes it's basically just like Sunday school. She tells Akihiro there's no rush and she'll wait in the next room, so he thanks her before walking over and dropping to one knee. He lifts his hands up, realizing it feels just like a deep bow, and shuts his eyes to start the prayer. Out of nowhere, he spots a massive system error popping up from a mystery connection, and Akihiro is left wondering what the heck is going on. Suddenly, someone bursts out laughing and calls it interesting. Then the guy in the white suit and black hat says he's hyped. They finally met right as the call gets patched through to Aki. He's pulling you into his world to meet Shaluya, the literal god of entertainment. Our hero asks if he's actually a god, and he just nods, saying that's what everyone in this world calls him. Akihiro keeps pushing for answers, but Shaluya says it's way too complicated and tells the guy to introduce himself first. Out of nowhere, he reveals his name is Mikawa, and then Akihiro and Shalu both ask if they can finally explain what's going on. These transported people are basically visitors stepping into this world for the very first time. And since there are tons of different worlds out there ruled by their own gods, they're all totally cut. Our guy is totally lost after what Shaluya just said, so he just stares at the kid while trying to figure it all out. Shaluya asks to use his memories from the other world to explain everything, and he starts processing all that crazy info. Shaluya told him to imagine the entire world turning into the north, with every single person on Earth hooked up to this server. The gods are basically the admins of this world, and since they make the rules, they can kick anyone off the server whenever they feel like it. Shalu basically kicked our hero off his world server and dragged him into his own, then asked him if that wasn't totally wild. Our guy figures that if he hooks this up to another server, the browsing history should still show all the data. God just straight up admits he faked all of history. The boy demands to know why, and Shaluya asks if it's even possible for someone to have that kind of insane power. Every server is built differently based on the creator's vision, and now someone who wants to save everyone is tracking down the admin. Shaluxa is super hyped and says it's awesome that only the administrator stands above the gods, but our hero just wants to know why he was brought here. Shaluya isn't even sure when his world started getting weird, and even though he tried reaching out, he got totally ghosted. Now, while the other guy thinks their support is straight up trash, Shaluya's still holding out hope for a reply. When it comes to his powers, this world has literally never seen anything like them before. The expert is like a voice chat, the assessment is basically a browser, and creating things lets you master new skills, so Akihiro just nods and says he totally gets it. He asks if he can use outside programs. Shaluya gives him the green light since the admin is totally silent, and he's honestly down for it. If the admin catches him, he's getting sent home, but he's not worried because he knows he can just come right back. Shaluya tells him she's got his back, and asks if she can give him a little welcome gift now that he's in her world. He plants an idea in the guy's head, wishes him luck a bunch of times, and now he's just waiting for their next talk. Shalua vanishes into thin air, leaving him all alone, but then the system pings back saying the connection is solid, the glitch is fixed, and everything is finally back to normal. He just unlocked prayer, wind, and elemental magic at a crazy 100% mastery, and while he wonders if this is some kind of cheat gift, his brain is totally melting. Chilling on a bench, our hero asks the system what prayer is, and after learning it's a skill to talk to the gods, he realizes he can basically hit up God whenever he wants. He figures it's worth a shot and calls out to God, but he gets zero response. Instead, Shaluach pipes up and asks if he has any questions. He says sorry for the overkill, but he was just testing his powers and didn't think it would be this easy. Shalua tells him to hit him up whenever things go south, since the guy is totally sure that God has his back. Next, he asks the system about control, the skill that lets him turn raw magic energy into actual spells. Turns out these skills let him cast spells, but elemental magic is still a total mystery. Once you've got the control down, you can use elemental magic, and since this guy has wind powers, he asks to use them and finds out they're actually super easy to master. Ever since he got stuck in this world, he's been dying to learn magic because he knows it'll finally give him some peace of mind, even though it used to be just a total. Back at home, he's got to grind through those magic books, but since he's hurting, he decides to train instead while wondering why he ever quit kendo. While sitting at the table, they ask Akihira if he wants to learn magic, and he's totally down, even suggesting they go find a magic shop nearby. Liz is all smiles saying the seller is definitely a wizard, and the MC is totally stunned, thinking this guy might actually help him, so he decides to head over there today. She says she's sticking with him but has to go hunting today, so Akihiro wishes her luck while her mom gushes over how obedient she is. The guy spots Akihira and asks what he's looking for, so Akihira tells him he wants to learn magic and needs to speak with the wizard. So he heads through those doors, where a guy is waiting to ask Akihiro how he can help him. He says he heard he could help with magic and asks Akihiro if he's just a total beginner. He takes one look at the guy and realizes he's got insane skills behind the wheel, so he starts wondering where he even learned to drive like that. Our hero admits he never actually studied this since it just appeared because God felt like it. But once he realizes it's all about the god of entertainment, he tells the guy he just needs to practice. The guy introduces himself as Bastia Akihiro and asks what our hero's power is, so the MC just tells him straight up that his attribute is victory. Bastia admits he's definitely no expert on this, but he's still gonna see if he can figure something out. First up, Akihiro has to summon a tiny ball out of thin air and use his magic to keep it spinning right in his hand. Basti pulls it off, and the MC is totally hyped because it looks like a tiny swirling ball of wind. It's time to let it rip, so the Bastion fires the ball and slams it right into the bullseye, totally catching them off guard. Bastia asks if he can handle it. Akihiro decides to go for it, and Bastia reminds him to find the element, blast it with power, picture the shape, and feel the spell forming right in his hand. Finally, they just have to picture themselves launching it at the target, because every step depends on their imagination. The clearer the image, the stronger the magic. Most wizards have to chant to make their spells work, but if he can picture it all perfectly in his head, he doesn't have to say a single word. Our guy is totally sure he can pull it off and tells you to just picture the whole thing in your head. He focuses on his wind magic and pictures a tiny cone, 7 millimeters tall and 5 wide, before sticking it right onto his index finger. He aims right for the bullseye, cranks the speed to 250 kilometers, points his finger, and just lets it rip. The shot slams right into the bullseye, and Bastia just stares in total shock before letting out a huge scream. He's totally shocked the guy nailed it on his first try, wondering what that crazy form was, and if this wind finally breaks his limits. But Akihiro is gasping for air so hard that Bastia has to check if he's even okay. Vastu says our guy totally overdid it by squeezing that spell too hard, and it's way better to just stick to the easy stuff for now. He's actually shocked it worked on the first try, since he can't spam spells and just one is enough to make him collapse. Bastia explains that the spell gets weaker if he loses focus, but he's skipping it for now because it'll give him a massive headache. The move isn't even that hard, but our guy thinks he's not ready yet and asks for more info until Bastia finally gives in. It's way easier to just show him how it's done. He uses earth magic to summon some pebbles that totally freak the guy out. Akihiro's jaw literally drops, and if so, Bastia grabs those flying balls and launches them straight at the target, landing a perfect hit every single time. It's way more powerful on the ground than in the air, and there are a bunch of ways to trigger it depending on the situation. This move lets him hit a bunch of enemies at the same time, which is a total game changer against clans, and he's starting to realize just how messy things are getting. Bastia tells him the main goal is finding his own style and mastering his limits. but the guy just wants to know how much he owes for the lesson. Once Bashal finds out the MC is still a total noob, he tells him to forget it, and only come back when he hits rank 8 and has some free time. Our hero realizes he's still got some time, so he heads out to test his magic and picks some Vasu grass for quick cash. But he's too wired to relax and keeps grinding until he's finally got enough for the day. The guild evaluator thanks Akihiro for the grind and says they'll see him next time, but he's blown away by how massive the crowd is today. Our guy notices everyone is staring at him and gets totally confused since he hasn't done anything wrong, so he figures he just sticks out as the new kid and heads back home. The hero says hey and hands her a bag of cash, promising it's just the start, and he'll definitely earn more to pay for her staying with them. She says she won't take his money since he's her future son-in-law. But Akihiro feels like a total freeloader, and when Liz and her dad walk in, the guy says they're calling it early today. Liz asks Akihiro how it all went, and he tells her he's gonna go practice outside later on. He takes a look and sees his wife looking super stressed, so he asks what's up, and she admits Akihiro paid for their whole stay, and she's totally lost on what to do. He's totally convinced he saved their daughter and even proposed, so they figure they might as well let him do his thing. The mom is super confused why he's grinding so hard for. Liz is super hyped and asks if he can use magic, but he says the backlash would totally wreck him, so he's just sticking to physical training for now. Liz admits she's feeling pretty nervous, but Akihiro tells her it's all good, and that he'll just take it slow until he gets used to all the work. Our guy sets up a training stump to plan his next move, but for now, he's just focused on learning how to hack away at those monsters' limbs. He shapes his wind magic into a tiny cone on his finger, just 5 millimeters wide and a centimeter tall, then fires it off at a crazy 120 kilometers per hour. The shot zooms through the air and blasts a tiny hole right into the stump. Our hero realizes he's still missing that raw power he needs. Luckily, the kickback is actually pretty easy. Liz yells at him to get home before the rain starts, and he totally agrees. He's laying in bed with his muscles totally killing him from the daily grind, wishing he never would have quit training back in school. She tells him she brought some medicine to stop the hurting, and he's super grateful for the help. Liz asks how he's holding up, and he says he's feeling way better, thanks to some herbs her dad recommended. The old man is actually super worried, even if he won't say. He's ready to do whatever it takes to pay this family back, but he's in pretty rough shape, though the girl tells him he's doing an awesome job and working super hard. The girl is totally lost, so our hero thanks Liza as he gets hit with a sweet wave of nostalgia from back when he was a kid. He honestly didn't think he could still feel this way. Today he's back at it, grabbing more grass for Vasu. Those meds worked like a charm, and he's feeling way. After wandering around for a bit, our guy stumbles right into 2 goblins who are busy stuffing their faces. It's training time, so he decides to blast them with wind magic, aiming straight for the heart as he lets the spell rip. The shell rips through one goblin, and while the other one is staring at his dead buddy in shock, our MC loads up and fires another shot. The system pings that his vigilance skill is at 0.01%, so he locks onto the goblin's left leg and fires off the spell. He hacks at its leg, rushes in, and finishes the goblin off with his blade. He's gasping for air and totally missed the system notification, not even sure if he's still alive, while the system says that goblin was way too weak for his level. He figures it's time to wrap things up, just needing to grab those goblin ears and head back to the guild since he's finally getting the hang of this and doesn't sense any magic nearby. The evaluator lists off 2 goblins, thousands of forks, and some grass. But while our hero is busy thinking about getting new shoes, someone suddenly reaches out and touches him. The guy apologizes, spots the herbs, and asks if he's the new kid rumored to be making bank-selling plants, and our MC finally realizes why everyone's been staring at him. The guy just laughs it off and says sorry for being so pushy, but he knows top-tier fighters get beat up all the time and really need his medicine, especially since herb prices are. Everyone calls him Healing Herbs because he's super reliable, and our main guy can tell he's actually a totally chill and decent dude. Our guy isn't trying to rot in a dungeon forever, he just wants to live a chill and quiet life. Our main guy spots 2 girls asking if he's a wizard, and it turns out they're looking for some serious magical help. He repeats her question in his head and tells them they've got it all wrong. She snaps that he's being super rude, introduces herself as Arya, a 7th rank adventurer, and begs him to actually listen, while our guy just admits he's a total one. The girl says sorry for the surprise and asks him to hear her out while her friend keeps apologizing. Then she tells Arya she can't treat people like that, but Arya swears she wasn't trying to be rude. The girls look totally desperate for a quick chat, so our guy has no choice but to cave in and follow them. They head up to the 2nd floor where the squad is already waiting, and Akihiro is totally shocked to find out they're actually a clan, especially when this armored guy named Dato steps up to thank him for showing up. Our guy realizes Diado is a swordsman and asks what they want, but they just tell him he's a weak rank 10, and that a massive slime is about to hit the forest. These monsters are big enough to swallow a person whole, and while you can handle normal slugs with a sword or basic magic, these massive ones don't even feel blades, and the Wada's magic just isn't strong enough to stop them. They're the only rank 7 team in the whole village, so they can't say no to the guild and definitely need some backup. Once Fati found out he had wind magic, she told him he should definitely hit up Akihiro for help. He says that even with this power, he's still a total noob and ranking up won't actually help him yet. Dino says he's getting a massive reward for this job, including 70% of 200,000 villas, free training, and a chance to finally rank up in the guild. This job is strictly for groups, so he's joining their clan for a bit, and they're ready to perform first thing tomorrow morning. The forest is right next door, so they can totally knock this out in a single day. If they don't handle it now, this thing is just gonna keep growing until it's a huge... Our guy admits he's still a total noob and might mess things up, but he's gonna give it his all, leaving the trio hyped as they head home for the day. Our hero heads back home with a bad feeling in his gut, even though he's got a whole squad of 7th rankers backing him up. Liz calls him out for being late, and he just asks what kind of haul they got today. Our MC notices the guy looks totally drained, and he explains that the rain washed away the trails and wrecked his traps, so there's basically nothing left to hunt. Our hero asks for even more guild quests, but the guy tells him to chill out, so he spends the time before dinner getting his weapon ready for tomorrow's big trip. While they're at the table, they start grilling him about the giant slime and the hero of Mantelzaki, warning him that this job is super risky, because even though slimes are usually chill, he asked if he was for real since he was only in 10th place, but the guy said the others were in 7th, so he'd totally have their backs and help out as much as he could. The guy warns him to stay safe. Aki puts on a show, acting like he's way too scared to go any deeper into the woods. He has no clue that a massive slime is lurking. He'd already taken down 3 goblins with his gear, but he never realized just how wrong he was about this world. Even if our MC meets a literal god, he's still just a normal guy who wants a chill life, and he's not sure he can trust someone who could end him with. Back in his old world, he had a job, played games, and had a family and friends he's now desperate to get back to. He's done risking his life every single day, terrified that he'll just freeze up and get killed because he's too scared to move. Out of nowhere, someone shouts his name, and it's Liz, who just grabs his hand and pulls him along. He's totally caught off guard, and Liz tells him she kept calling his name with no luck, making her worry he was sick, so he apologizes and explains he was just totally spaced out. She finally catches her breath, but the second our guy brings up the hand, she just lets go out of nowhere. She could tell he was hurting because he'd been acting super weird since he got back, so she went to check if he was actually okay. She sits down right in front of him and says sorry for barging in, and even though Akihiro was totally spaced out, he's feeling way better now and thanks her. She asks if he's really doing okay, and Akihiro says yes, but inside, he's totally given up and lost all hope. Liz flashes a grin and tells him to crush it tomorrow, promising to cook up a legendary dinner if he makes it back home fast. He cracks a smile, finally realizing he's got a place to call home and a crew waiting for him to get back. He's not letting fear win because he's actually hyped for dinner, and even though Liz hasn't decided what to cook yet, she's just gonna wing it and make sure it tastes amazing. While this guy is just chilling and sipping tea, he's told that wolves are the scariest monsters around because they always hunt in packs, and even though they're ranked at level 8, a solid squad of level 7s can handle them easily. Akihiro's got to keep the main rule in mind. You can't ever chill out in this forest. Something dangerous could be hiding around every corner. He knows the deal and gets ready. Liz's mom hands him a gift to take along, and after he agrees, Liz tells him to stay safe, but she's totally stunned when he finally calls her by her name and wishes her luck with the hunt. She admits only her inner circle calls her that, and she's totally happy about it, smiling as she tells him that now she can just call him her hero. She turns bright red and agrees, making the hero think she's super sweet as he tells her she doesn't have to force it. She hits him up to call him a hero and wish him luck, and even though he was a nervous wreck when he left yesterday, he's totally locked in now. He's still a little nervous, but he feels like he can actually win, and he wonders if this is what real confidence finally feels like. Our MC refuses to back down and is ready to wreck this slime, so he triggers his creation skill, maxes out his daredevil power, and then a dark-haired kid just casually tells the hero, "Meet Hattis, their new guide." And since everyone's ready to roll, they're finally heading out to the northern forest. The whole squad is trekking through the woods, but they've just stepped into monster territory, so they better watch their backs. Our hero is stressed that the giant slime might have moved on, but Haiti tells him to relax because that thing is way too slow to get far. Our hero double-checks the map, and when the girl asks if his watch is some legendary magic item, he tells her it's just a regular watch with a compass. The blonde thinks this gadget is for finding your way and tracking time, and as the MC reports it, he realizes the guy sounds exactly like his grandpa. Suddenly, they hear a weird noise, and two armed goblins jump straight out of the bushes at them. The goblins don't even stand a chance because a light-haired guy with a sword rushes in and wipes them both out instantly. Our MC is totally shocked by how fast that happened because level 7 power is just insane, and he's sure they'll find that slime soon now that the girl has finished grabbing. The crew keeps pushing forward, but our guy is totally on edge because he can feel something bad is about to happen. Someone rushes over to Hedis and warns him that they're completely surrounded by a pack of wolves. Everyone's told to gear up, someone calls out to Vatis, and our main guy is totally stunned when she suddenly starts singing. Out of nowhere, the wolves start shaking and just drop dead, leaving our guy totally stunned as he asks what just happened. But the girl just shrugs and says she's actually pretty bad. She explains that she just snuck tiny fireballs inside the wolves and toasted their lungs from the inside. He's totally freaked out because he never thought a girl this sweet could be so cold-blooded. He says those skins will sell for a ton of cash, but they're gonna grab them on the way back since the map shows they've still got 2 hours of walking left. Hedis admits he's actually pretty nervous, so the hero apologizes for not warning him sooner. But Hedis totally gets it since this mission is definitely not for rookies. He thanks him for the backup even though they might not need it yet, especially since Hades looks like just another regular guy in the crowd. Our hero can't even picture his own face when he closes his eyes because he looks like a total background character. He's super hyped that the squad is so tight, since they've been best friends since they were little kids and know every single one of each other's weaknesses. He's totally caught off guard and starts thinking about how lucky he is to be friends with two gorgeous girls. But just as he's feeling a bit jealous of his own life, Hades absolutely wrecks the beast, leaving our MC totally stunned as he finally realizes what the guild member meant, and feeling like a total jerk for calling him a side character. They're almost at their goal, and since they've made it this far, our hero knows there's no turning back. He's totally sure they're gonna pull this off. Deep in the woods, they run right into a massive slime, and our hero realizes it's way bigger than he ever expected. He's not sure they can even handle this beast, since it's a massive 3 meters tall. He spots a ball inside the slime that looks just like a piece of filled candy, and he realizes that taking out this core is actually way easier than it looks. Hades says a massive hit to the core will kill the slime instantly, so we've got to take it out. Our hero wants to see how the stone moves, so his partner chucks one at the enemy, but it just bounces straight back. Our hero starts moving but stops dead when he realizes he's looped right back to the beginning. Tooth tells the kid to go easy on the core so they can bring it to the guild, and when the hero asks about the slime, he says they don't even need it. Our hero wants to blast the slime away, but a full power move would knock him out cold, so he tries a medium shot since everyone is counting on him. His hand is shaking like crazy as he points his finger, but he's got to pull it together because if this guy isn't taken out, a ton of people are gonna get hurt. He grabs a massive 10-foot ball of air, crushes it down to the size of a grapefruit, shapes it into a tiny cone on his finger, and spins it fast to make it weigh more. He figures half the speed of a bullet is plenty, so he lets it rip at 700 kilometers. He aims just to the right of the core and fires his spell, sending a blast of air crashing into the slime. The slime gets totally vaporized and everyone starts cheering like crazy. But even though he thought he barely tapped the core, it blew up way harder than he ever expected. They tell our guy he's finally ready to handle things solo, and since he's worked so hard, he can finally relax. But right as he's celebrating, he suddenly pukes everywhere. She nervously sits down next to him and thanks him for coming all this way. But he just shrugs it off, saying he's never been this bored in his life. He thinks all that crazy pressure is the problem, and since he's feeling pretty sick, he's got to find out exactly where his limit is. They dig through the gross slime and find a core so huge that Hotie's never seen anything like it, making the boy ask if this thing is actually worth a fortune. Katie promises to remember that for the next order, and the guy is seriously crossing his fingers that she actually does. He walks up to the massive core and tells his worried friends he's totally fine, but he's definitely gonna need a huge nap once they get home, thanking them for having his back. The blonde guy is totally shocked by his own power, and everyone thanks him, saying his magic is seriously on another level. He admits he still doesn't know his own power since he just mastered magic. But right then, Arya spots something. She screams that she has no clue what that thing is, but it's charging right at them. Everyone realizes they need to bolt right now, and Hades says sorry for being caught off guard since the danger is already closing in. He lays out the plan. Vitius grabs the core, Hades sprints ahead, and he and Arya will watch everyone's backs. Our hero is totally confused and asks if that thing is a wolf, but Katie warns him it's way more than just a regular animal. That noise echoes through the forest again, making everyone think a whole pack of wolves is closing in. He feels like he's totally running on empty, but he's still gripping onto the last bit of power he has left. If they just stand there, they're definitely getting caught, so the hero apologizes for being too tired to run. But then the other guy suggests they climb a tree and just blast everyone with magic. They admit his magic is insane, but doubt he can take on the whole pack alone, so he just tells them he needs a quick breather before he handles business. They act just like regular wolves and don't have time to think, so we've got to use that against them. While everyone else is busy scaling trees, our guy realizes his legs have gotten way too weak, and he's gonna have to start running every single day. The girl screams that they're here as these super dark wolves suddenly appear right next to her. Everyone's losing it over how huge these things are, since they're literally 3 times the size of a regular wolf, and they're all begging Kates to tell them what. The kid admits he's got no clue because he's never seen anything like this before, so our MC decides to just step up and take the test. These wolves have been soaking up magic for ages, so they're way stronger than any regular pack. The wolves start howling, and the girl realizes something is seriously wrong. She's already counted over 20 of them when packs are usually half that size, and it looks like they're calling for even more backup. The guy calls out to Vadis. She says she gets it, and then she just fires off her magic with a totally blank face. She blasts one of the wolves with magic, making it yelp and fall over, but it just stands right back up. The Hateses are stunned the fire magic didn't work, so they clamp their mouths shut to keep their guts from roasting, while our hero thinks he totally failed and starts doubting himself. The wolves are just staring up from the bottom of the tree, and since they can't climb, our hero decides to blast them with some magic. He shrinks the spell to 5 millimeters, cranks the pressure into a sharp cone on his finger, and fires it off at 150 kilometers, thinking that's more than enough power to get the job done. The shell slams into the wolf and rips it to shreds, and while our hero is hyped that it actually worked, Hetty warns him that things are about to get way worse. Tons more of these things are showing up, and they just keep multiplying. Everyone's asking him how fast he can cast his spells and how much power he's actually packing. He's too weak to take them on one by one, so he's gonna spam his powers since it's literally his only choice left. The system warns him that using 2 spells at once is way too dangerous right now and could seriously wreck his body. The system warning totally catches him off guard, and even though he hates relying on this skill, he's stuck in a corner and has to pray for a miracle. He jotted down the fallout, and after a few tries, he begs God to hurry up because things are a total mess, until a voice named Alex Toa pops up saying she's the divine operator and the connection finally goes live. Using tons of magic makes him feel super sick and nauseous, and if he doesn't stop, he'll actually damage his brain, which totally catches our hero off guard. He's in a really bad spot, so they're helping him out this time, but he's gonna be knocked out for a few days, and he's honestly just thanking. He got lucky this time, but he needs to craft a ton of shells fast because the howling stopped, meaning all 30 of those monsters are probably right on top of him. Our hero tells Gaddis he's taking on all the wolves himself, but then he suddenly collapses and begs for help because he's about to go all out with every bit of power he has. He locks onto the pack and pictures a bullseye on every single wolf's head, counting exactly 34 targets. He squishes his wind magic into high-pressure cones, cranks the speed to 150 kilometers an hour, and aims a shot at every single target. He'll do whatever it takes to get back home, so he finally triggers the spell. The wolves tear her to shreds in an instant, leaving the crowd totally blown away by the win, while the boy just stands there in dead silence. He sees that every wolf is finally dead and knows he can head back, but then he just blacks out. He's about to pass out, so he uses some hot cheese to keep going and spots a guy in a hat standing right in front of him. Electoa introduces himself and says he's stoked to meet him, explaining that his whole job is helping guests. But when the guy asks about his fancy suit, Electoa just shrugs and says it's not even formal in his world. He just thought it looked cool for a first meeting. Our hero explains that kimonos are the official look back home, and when Electra admits they're a total pain to wear, he appreciates her being real and asks where they actually are. Alitoa explains they're inside his subconscious, and he's stuck here until he snaps out of it, because Alitoa needed the perfect spot for a private chat. He's not a clueless pushover like their god is, but he's low-key wondering if he's even allowed to talk smack about a literal god like that. Electoa is busy checking server updates and letting other gods in, totally shocked that his Earth server is blowing up with views and asking why it's getting so much hype. Alex Toa says it's obvious why everyone loves Earth, since their whole world is basically just a clone built from the server's genetic code. Our MC finally realizes why this world feels so familiar. Every server has its own theme, and while his was all about building a civilization, this one is just focused on making everyone as happy as possible. Everyone has their own version of a happy life, so they settled for these worlds just to stop the fighting. But our hero is dreaming of a perfect utopia where war doesn't even exist. These admins are totally obsessed with Japanese culture, and since they're all huge fans of games and anime, our hero realizes that even literal gods can be total otakus. Alex Toa is totally focused on his snacks, especially the potato chips, while Hiro asks if they're the ones with all those crazy weird flavors. Alex Toa asks him when he's finally gonna wake up, but her plan to share a chip recipe totally backfired when everyone mistook the ingredients for leaves and got poisoned, and Alex Toa knows they're totally out of time. And since time moves so weirdly here, our hero is worried about what kind of mess he'll wake up in as she. He's dying to know what's going on right now, but he's also super stressed and just hopes Liz hasn't been freaking out about him. Our guy snaps his eyes open, gets blinded by the light, and wonders if he's actually back in his own room. He's really hoping his friends made it back safe, and even though he literally just talked to God, he knows for a fact it wasn't a dream. But then something totally unexpected catches his. She's totally crashed on his bed. And realizing she's been looking after him this whole time, he tries to wake her up. Lolly's hero calls out to her, but she won't wake up, and it's honestly super weird that she's still out cold. He slips out of bed and realizes he's totally fine, since those tiny scratches aren't even a big deal. He shakes her shoulder to wake her up and is super stoked she's finally back, so she just says good morning and pulls him into a hug. Liz tells him she was totally freaking out, but he threatens to choke her, so she just starts swinging on him. Liz was totally blowing a fuse, but the guy just acted like it was no big deal, told her to take a breather, and asked if she'd finally calm down. She confirms he's been out cold for 3 whole days, explaining that Hetty and the crew brought him here after a healer found out he's suffering from total magical burnout. Liz confesses she was terrified he'd never wake up, but he says sorry and tells her she can finally stop worrying because he's totally fine. He tells her he's finally back and she's super hyped, and even though he knows he went way too far, he'd do literally anything just to be back in this house. Liz's mom tells him she's whipped up some soup, and he gives her a quick thanks. She's super relieved he's actually all right, but the healer warns him to stick to light snacks for now, and our guy is already stressing about how much this doctor's bill is gonna cost. Lisa's dad tells the hero to just chill while he goes hunting, but even though Lisa wants to stay behind, the hero actually sides with her father. He's dying to hit the guild today, but Liz tells him he should probably wait until tomorrow, so he tells her not to worry since some fresh air will do him good, and the girl's mom admits she's totally stressed too, but the boy says he's not there for a mission. He just wants to talk and figure out what went down while on his way to the guild. He wants to see how strong he's gotten, so he pulls up his status screen to check out his skills. He figured out he couldn't control water before because the system stayed quiet, since his body was so stressed after the slime fight that it actually turned off his safety alerts. The kid walks back into the guild, and a shocked Geddes asks if he's finally feeling better, so the boy shakes his hand and thanks the whole squad for helping him out on the mission. Our hero tried to apologize for carrying him, but since he knew Hettis was a sensitive guy, he just said it was all good as they rushed out of the woods without seeing a soul, until a loud voice suddenly called out to him. She told him that if he keeps jumping into danger, she's going to be right there to back him up. He knew finding a squad would be a total nightmare, but he really wanted to trust Liz. The guy thanked her and said he was honestly just super glad to hear that. He told her she shouldn't be an adventurer, and she was totally confused about why. She says she's still just a student and can't turn down the chance to be a huntress, but he tells her she needs to check with her parents before deciding. Liz promised to tell her dad, but she made it clear the choice was hers alone, because she was dying to join his crew and become a real adventurer. He asked if she was 100% sure, since she was still a total rookie, and he didn't want her getting hurt. She straight up asked him if he wanted her to help him out. He tells her straight up that if she's gonna worry about him, he's definitely gonna worry about her too. Liz was stoked to hear that and promised her skills would definitely be a huge help to him. She was totally set on becoming a traveler, and there was no way he could talk her out of it. He totally agreed and told her they needed to go talk to her dad right away. The guy asked the kid straight up if he was the one who invited her. She made it clear this was her own choice, and the boy wanted to make sure he got the message loud and clear. Liza made it clear she'd thought it all through and was dead set on becoming an adventurer. She's tired of just sitting at home stressing over her boyfriend and wants to get in on the action too. The girl actually agreed to team up with our hero for this mission. Our hero was totally shocked when he heard the news, but that's just the life of an adventurer. It's always super dangerous. He told her straight up that she needs to finish school first. She said that if she doesn't behave herself, she's gonna be in big trouble. She said since they've settled everything, they're counting on him to look after their daughter. The hero told the girl he was super glad she wanted to join him, and the man could see he trusted her 100%. He says this is a huge moment for finally getting their squad together. He swore he'd keep her safe no matter what kind of trouble went down. The hero straight up admitted that he totally counts on Liza. Her parents say she's always been super stubborn, and once she makes up her mind, she sticks with it until the very end. This guy's gotta do whatever it takes to look after his daughter. She thanked her dad and promised him she'd definitely become an awesome traveler. He told her she better not forget a single thing they'd practiced during their lessons. Liz promised she wasn't gonna let them down. She told him they're hitting the guild to sign up tomorrow, and the hero asked if she was down to go hunting. The guy told them not to sweat it and that he'd handle the whole thing himself deep in the forest. And just like that, they're officially best friends. Our hero is hyped to have a girlfriend, but now he's gotta figure out her spot on the team based on what she can actually do. She was the top pick for the Vanguard, but he seriously doubted she could actually handle the pressure. He almost put her in the back, but even if she's a pro with a bow, she couldn't handle giant animals, let alone crazy monsters. With her insane strength, she's a total natural for leading the charge on the front lines. He wondered if this power was making his bones rock solid or just giving his muscles a massive boost. This newbie's power is literally flooding the wizard's whole body with magic. She asks what he's thinking, and he just fires back by asking what role she wants to play. Liz didn't even care. She just totally expected to be swinging an axe for this fight. Liz spoke up and said she could totally use the shield too. She said they actually hit it off pretty well while they were out on the hunt. So now the only thing left to deal with is the cash. That heavy armor costs a fortune, and he doesn't even have his own weapon to fight with. He's also looking to snag a bow and arrows, because he's definitely not taking any shortcuts with his defense. Jer decided it was time to go crush some goblins. He wanted to see if the girl could actually handle herself in a real fight. They were definitely in for a wild ride with... He told her to hit up the blacksmith today and pick out some weapons for both of them. She told him she was actually looking to meet someone today. She tells them she's a traveler too, and since she's a rank 9, she's actually looking for a squad to join. Liz says this is her childhood bestie from 10 years ago, a 15-year-old she basically grew up with while hanging out at her house all the time. Our hero thought she was his childhood best friend and that he could totally trust her. He asks her to meet up, but she's already at the guild waiting since they literally planned this yesterday. Our hero yells that they gotta move fast because he didn't think she'd be waiting already. The girl tells him to just relax. He realizes he totally lost track of time. She explained that since she was little, the girl was always full of energy and scared off every bully. But she was still the kindest kid you'd ever meet. Our hero was totally sure she was a girl and figured she'd make an awesome teammate. Liz stepped up and introduced her friend to the whole gang. Fia walks over and says what's up to our main guy and Lisa. She grew up in a house full of boys, so she just naturally treats our hero like one of her brothers. She told him to quit being so awkward and just speak his mind, since he's literally Lisa's fiancé now. Fia says he just soloed a whole mob of monsters, taking down 30 of them in one single hit. He told them he didn't do it all by himself, but he still ended up getting a total earful. She straight up asks him if he'd be down for her to become his second wife. Our hero realized this wasn't just some tough trip, it was a total adventure. She heard he totally wrecked those 6th rank monsters and called him a total treasure. Liz straight up told them that a hero isn't just some object. Our guy was pretty confused when he found out that having a bunch of wives is actually totally legal in this world. He apologized and told her it just wouldn't work, since the laws in his country say a guy can only have one wife. He still thought he was engaged to Lisa, and he definitely wasn't down for the whole multiple wives thing. She told them she was already signed up and flashed her travel card to prove it. Fia never imagined she'd end up as a seeker, and Liz mentioned her own brother was a traveler too. Since Fia's getting married and needs a place to stay, she suggests they start a group, only to find out Liz was just about to ask her the same thing. Fia mentioned that her friend used to be a total crybaby back in the day. The girls were super hyped with how their team-up turned out. The squad was figuring out their next move when our guy says they should head straight to the blacksmith. The hero asks Liz what weapon she's into, and she tells him the hammer is totally her vibe. She asked her friend what she thought, and her friend told her she looked like a legit world traveler. The kid realized it was finally time to score himself a sweet new weapon. He tried to pay, but Liz shut him down and insisted on handling it herself. The hero mentions they don't go shopping every day, so Fia tries to buy something for herself, but Liz shuts her down immediately. She thanked him for the help, and he was just hyped they finally got that new gear. All this stuff is super expensive, but he's totally loaded now thanks to that slime reward. Fia begged him to show off some magic, and he was totally down, but they needed a quiet place first, so she led him to a secret spot right outside the village. They finally made it to the spot! This was the training ground where she used to train him, and the hero asked her if he could take a leaf from the tree. He crushed his wind magic into a tiny 5mm cone just 1 centimeter tall, and let it rip while zooming at a crazy 150 kilometers an hour. Fia was totally suspicious and asked if he was actually just a rookie. The girl says there's no way a total rookie could use magic that powerful. since they usually have to start with basic formulas just to get their bodies used to the energy. She says only Academy mages or simulator users can pull off magic like that, and she got the inside scoop from a wizard friend. This helps him picture the magic perfectly, making it way easier to cast spells since he can see exactly how they'll end up. Basically, this simulator is just like a helper app, so our hero decided to give it a shot. He saw the whole world like a giant video game, moving through life like he was just controlling a character. He pushed himself to get closer and actually made it, but it was a total struggle that left him feeling super sick. He started moving, and it felt like he was literally building a 3D version of himself. In his head, it was actually super simple, like buttons were popping up and he was just playing a video game simulator. He tried to picture a massive slime monster, but a huge danger warning suddenly flashed in his face. She was convinced he only won because he used a simulator. It was super hard at first because he really had to get used to the feeling. The hero was totally wiped out from the simulator and knew he needed way more practice before trying those moves for real. He straight up told them not to treat him like some big shot pro. Fia asks where he learned his magic, and the girl tells her he picked it all up at a magic shop. She told everyone he totally bailed on the academy and didn't even finish school. She was shocked by how fast he mastered magic, but the hero just told her he had an awesome teacher. He was seriously questioning if it was even safe to hop into the simulator right now. This move was on a totally different level than anything else. Most people there just used basic pictures. This guy builds a full 3D world where he just goes absolutely overkill. While everyone else just sees a flat picture, he builds a full 3D model in his head because he's spent his life playing first-person games. The system says nobody will get why magic is so easy for him. But even though his gaming knowledge helps, it's actually frying his brain and gets way worse the more dangerous things get. T's hyped to test out their fresh new gear, so she tells the group it's time to go hunt some goblins. Our MC was totally on board because they had plenty of time for Liza to just grind some levels. It was time to get serious about these simulators, but man, the questions were just piling up. Our guy was hunting in that spot because the grass was super thick. 2 goblins start creeping up on them, and their very first instinct is to find a place to hide. He told the girl to keep an eye out and told the other guy to strike the second he gave the signal. The guy told him to grab the one on the right and smash him with a hammer as hard as he could, promising he'd have his back if things went south. Our hero realized he wasn't quite used to this yet and knew he needed way more practice. The simulation was finally good to go. The magic was way too crazy, so they had to dial it back a bit. These simulations are honestly perfect for tweaking a spell's strength. Liz asked about cutting off the goblin's ears, and the hero thought she was doing an awesome job. She had zero problem slicing through monsters like a pro, making him realize she was definitely going to be a legendary adventurer one day. Fias mentioned this was her first hunt as an adventurer, and she was super hyped to share how it felt. Liz says that all that training with her dad really gave her a massive boost. He knew she was the real deal even if the weight was killing him, so the girls decided to just keep going. She explained that 20 goblins were worth 40,000 forks, and 30 bundles of grass got them a vase worth 24,000, so she handed. The girls told him that since he's the leader, he should just do whatever he thinks is best. Fia was blown away that even after splitting the loot, she still walked away with 16,000, which was way more than she'd ever made in a single day since she could usually only take out. Liz says it's way scarier being all alone, and Gro totally agrees that sticking with the group is way more chill. They said their goodbyes, and he walked away thinking she was totally into everything. He told the girl to head back home while he hit up the church to pray that the whole squad stays safe. She told him he better hurry up and get back fast. Our hero actually started praying to God for a miracle. The system totally glitched out with a mystery connection error, but he just figured it was another basic warning. A gorgeous girl was standing right there, telling him he'd come a long way to find her as she started praying. She introduced herself all nice and polite, but then DCS revealed she's actually the boss of the recovery force. He also couldn't get enough of just talking to her. He was actually worried because he was way too OP for that world, and feared his knowledge would totally wreck the place. He's the only guy in this entire world who's always carrying a weapon. The girl tells him that a weapon is just a reflection of the person's own will. Even a random... They went over the magic rules and told him not to worry because they'd step in if he ever got too powerful. And since he's such a nice guy, she let him. The girl promised she'd hook him up with a totally insane skill. She told him she'd numbed his pain and told him to slice his own arm, and while he was totally shocked, she promised to jump in and help if things went wrong. This kid honestly thought he was just totally empty inside. Tissia confirms he actually pulled it off, saying she even saw the bone. The hero was totally freaking out thinking he was gonna die. But the girl told him it was all good and to just use magic to heal his hand. She told him to just picture it and fire up the simulation. Our hero just pictured his hand being totally back to normal. He fired up the skill and his hand healed instantly without leaving a single scar, while the girl told him that was the power she'd just given him. She said wounds like this usually take forever to heal, and most mages can't even picture the recovery, but he somehow fixed himself way faster than she ever expected. The hero thought he finally scored a divine gift, but the girl shut him down, while Dicia promised she'd always be there for him no matter what he needed. She wished they could have talked longer, but he had to bounce so she could finish her work. He apologized for distracting her, but she told him he's welcome back whenever. She really hoped they'd meet up again, and just like that, the system confirmed the connection was back, and that massive glitch was finally gone. A brand new skill for controlling divine magic just got unlocked. Now our hero could heal literally any wound just by using his simulation, and he was super hyped to thank the goddess for giving him such an insane skill. The guy finally made it back home, and even though she told him to chill out, he wasn't having any of it. The hero asked if dinner was ready, but Liz told him they had to wait for their dad so they could all eat together. Jiro told her to get some practice in before dinner, and once she agreed, he promised they'd keep her totally safe. The guy told her he was coming for her and that she better get ready to defend herself. She swatted away every single hit perfectly, and he was sure it was all thanks to the insane eyesight she got from her training. The hero tells her to bash them with her shield right after blocking, since it's a killer move she definitely needs to master. He warned her that she might lose her weapon in a fight, so she's got to be ready to take down the enemy with her bare hands. The boy told them to keep grinding, and a bit later her dad showed up asking what they were even doing. The guy asked if he was finally awake after passing out. The hero said he was all good, and then the girl yelled that it was time to eat. He realized his injury wasn't the real problem. It was just the massive gap in their age and power. And then the girl got asked all about winning her award. The guy told her to drop the attitude because she definitely wasn't built like that. He said she totally blew his mind and was a total beast with the rest of the squad. The boy tells her that her goblin kill was insane, but she says she's just trying to copy her dad's moves. The hero notices she's really trying to use everything he taught her, but he warns her to stay sharp and not get careless. Liz promised to grind even harder so she could finally rake in the big bucks. She told him she'd take care of the dishes, so the boy asked if they really haul water from the well every day, and she confirmed it, saying she heads out there. The hero told her he knew things were tough and promised to bring the water himself starting tomorrow, apologizing for not helping out sooner. But they just told him he's working way too hard and needs to take a break. He thought this was a total piece of cake compared to a boring office job, especially since he just had to focus on adventuring while the house basically ran itself. Our hero dove straight into mastering his new skill, feeling totally hyped that he actually got to chat with God. He had to figure out what he could actually do in this simulation, but even when he tried to fly, he just couldn't get it to work. The kid decided to start off with something super basic. He triggered his wind magic and slapped the spell right onto the bottom of the paper. Instead of testing it out first, he just decided. He pictures the wind magic swirling to life right under his feet. He actually pulled it off, proving that if you can see it in your head, you can make it happen. To him, it felt just like he was controlling gravity itself. Gliding through the air felt totally awesome, and he knew that once he got the hang of it, he'd be flying circles around enemies in battle with total freedom. The girl asked what he was up to, saying her mom was super worried that he was working way too hard. He gave her a ride, but she straight up said it felt super awkward. He was geeking out like a total kid and acting all shy. But when she told him he looked like he was gliding, he said he just needed a bit more practice before he could fly for real. Liz says he's a total beast and he's literally leveling up every single second. She promised to train like crazy to keep up with him so they could give it their all together. He was still a total rookie, but since his magic was so insanely broken in this world, he felt like he could do literally anything. She said the hero was straight up gliding through the air. She told him they were literally taller than her house, and he pulled her into a hug. He thought she had a total blast last night, but the second she woke up, she went and told everyone about it. Liz said he picked her up like a princess, and her heart started racing like crazy. Fia was dying to fly too, but the girl straight up shut her down. The boy offered her a piggyback ride, but she insisted on being carried in his arms, making the hero think she was being a total kid. Back in Japan, they'd just be normal students, and there's no way anyone would let them fight monsters. She caught him spacing out, and he admitted he hated that they were just kids forced to fight these crazy monsters. They told him they were officially grown-ups, and Liz was hyped because she could finally start making her own cash. Our MC realized that these girls were basically the exact same person. He gave Fia a ride, and she was totally loving it. He didn't keep it up for long, though, because Liz was not having it. It was time for them to head out and get to work. She told him that next time she definitely wants a turn flying on his back, too. The guy agreed and told her he's down to make it happen if she gives the word. Liz was super hyped and totally ready to get things moving. They totally cashed out today, so while he hits up the blacksmith, she's heading to the jewelry store to check out the new drops. Liz was hyped to check out the new gear, so she grabbed a friend and headed out. Our hero walks right up to the blacksmith and gives him a friendly greeting. He's checking out the copies today to pick the absolute best one, and when he's shown a shorter but way more powerful version, the hero tells him to give it a shot. This thing was way heavier than it looked, but it felt super balanced and the length was honestly perfect. Even with a massive discount, it still cost 70,000, and our guy realized that back in Japan, he could have bought a whole computer for that much cash. He decided to grab it, thinking this thing would definitely last him for years. The hero asks for some parchment or literally anything he can use to write on. The guy told him to follow along and led him to a room where he could use some parchment and a quill. Over there, they were still busy pulling water up from the well. Lugging heavy water around every single day is a total nightmare. Grabbing water is way easier now with the pump, and he's super hyped he can just check the encyclopedia on his phone. The kid explains that this machine pumps out water super easily, and the guy is so shocked it actually works that he wants to show the blueprints to the Lord right away. The guy says the Viscount is the real boss of these lands, and once the Duke finds out, even the king might hear about the plan. The kid asks about the patent, and the guy explains that it basically lets him be the only person allowed to sell it. He explains that starting a massive company is the only way to mass-produce his gear, but since he can't do it alone, he needs a solid trading partner to handle the sales. The guy says the forge needs a ton of water, and he's down to do whatever it takes to make things easier. The hero tells him he's counting on him, and the guy says the design is so easy he won't even need a forge, asking for just a bit of time to finish the first prototype. Once the blacksmith finished the job, he asked him to drop it off at Esto's house, and our hero finally introduced himself. The guy said this machine would help his mom out a ton, and from that day on, he became their family's absolute best friend. Koval told them to stop yapping because it was time to get down to business. Our hero was hyped to finally get that pump, knowing it would be a total game changer for everyone once it got out there. He figured it was already game over, but he still had to ask, so he turned to God for help. He asked who could help him get these hand pumps out to everyone in this world. God tells him it's no big deal since they'll meet up in the future anyway, and he's totally down to answer questions whenever. But then he mentions he's munching on spicy strawberry chips, and our hero honestly can't even imagine how gross that tastes. He realized that Japanese companies honestly drop some of the weirdest stuff that makes zero sense. He catches up with the girls who are already back, and they show off the new bracelets they bought, including one they picked out just for him. The girls decided that these were officially going to be their special clan bracelets. The heroes give their thanks, but then Fia tells him to hit her up if he ever wants a second wife, which Liz shuts down instantly while our guy realizes the real trouble is only just. Fia points out that the girl is a total pro with that hammer now, always nailing the weak spots, and the girl says it feels like she's already smashed a ton of goblins since they always attack in packs. It's not even lunchtime yet and they've already taken out 20 goblins, which is way more than they managed yesterday. Lately they've been running into way more goblins than usual. They've already taken out 20 in just half a day. That's crazy because it usually takes a... The lady noticed they got back super early, so the girl told her they crushed their job fast enough to help with the laundry since they made a ton of cash today. The kid asks for a jug of water, so the girl offers to lead him right to the well. Honestly, that well was actually looking pretty solid. Our hero realized scrubbing clothes by hand is a total nightmare, and now he finally sees why washing machines are a complete game changer. He realized that mastering water was actually insanely hard. The kid decided he'd go scope out that pump first thing tomorrow. He heads into the blacksmith shop and asks how everything is coming along. This guy is building a wooden version first, and if it actually works, he's gonna remake the whole thing in solid bronze. He decided to build a test model first to see if the pump actually worked, and our main guy was super grateful. The blacksmith already hit up the guild, and they're sending a researcher over to help them out. He thinks that after testing the wooden model, they'll get a deal to build it together and finally get to talk to the big bosses. Our hero had a major gut feeling that these big-shot officials were totally shady. The guy told them it was all good since he'd worked with them before, and said they could just hit him up if anything went wrong. Our guy apologized for being late while finishing his chores, but the girls had already wrecked 10 goblins without him. Fia can already tell that today is going to be another wild ride with zero time to chill. He asks if they've seen any other monsters, and she says everything looks clear, but 2 more goblins are already sneaking up from the northwest. Fia's already wiped out, but the hero insists they get back to the village fast, and even though Liz thinks he looks totally spooked, he just says something's off and heads straight for the guild. He'd seen stuff like this in video games before, like a special event or a monster invasion, but things got way too real when a massive horde of goblins started charging straight for them. They walked away with a massive 120,000 villas for those 60 goblins, and since Liz is such a pro, she's getting bumped straight to rank 9 without even needing to take an exam. She was shocked that they'd already made so much bank just a few days after she signed up. Everyone started hyping her up, and as she thanked them, she admitted she didn't even know how to feel about it all. The boy asked the girls if they were heading to practice, but Fia said it was way too early to go home, so the hero told them to go on ahead and stay safe while he finished. She says he looks just like her dad, but the hero is thinking he definitely doesn't need a kid who's already a full-grown adult. Hetty said sorry for the wait, but he finally got the report and told the guy he did an awesome job. He explained that this guild paper is only for official stuff because it's so hard to make that regular people almost never see it. Our guy completely forgot he was supposed to be scouting for the guild and decided to just play dumb. He started by checking the files, which revealed a crazy report showing the goblin population had actually tripled in just the last 10 days. The monsters just kept on coming, and he couldn't figure out why there were suddenly so many of them. He warns the group that a massive goblin king is probably calling the shots. He says this is the big boss who's pulling all the goblins together into one massive army. The hero explained that this is exactly why the goblin numbers are exploding, because every winter they run out of food and start raiding villages. Winter is still a long way off, and these ruins usually just move in tiny squads, but once the Goblin King shows up, the whole game flips. All those tiny squads bunch up into one massive army and charge straight for the village. This went down every single year, and the heroes knew they finally had to step up and find a way to stop it. Hades says that every single year, a special squad of elite knights gets sent their way. Our hero thought he'd seen this mess a dozen times already, but those reports from 30 years ago totally threw him for a loop. Goblins always swarm in during the winter, so a big attack is definitely coming, but lately, they've been showing up way earlier than they're supposed to. He asked what would have happened if the attack hit earlier, and the guy said the guilds would have been forced to use their backup troops and defend the village all by themselves. Our guy had a really bad feeling about where this was going, so he asked how many goblins were coming, and found out there were between 300 and 400 of them. He joked that the adventurers could win solo, but it would be a total bloodbath, and they'd already lost way too many people. The intel says the attack is hitting way earlier than expected, and with a massive swarm of goblins about to raid the village, the guy asks if they can call in the knights right now. Katie explains that the government is actually calling the shots, not the guild, and he's already sent for backup while begging the hero to keep it all a secret. Get it back out now. Let's make it more teenager telling a story. He was the only one who actually caught it, and after the guy said he was, our hero says he can totally break out, but they warn him that if he runs while he's banned from talking, he'll end up as a wanted fugitive. He knew that getting on the guild's bad side was the last thing he wanted. Since he was already in deep, he needed to know everything, so he asked exactly when the invasion was going to start. Hetty says the scouts will be back in a week, but that's nowhere near enough time to get ready. The guy explained that since time got all messed up, he really thought the knights would have made it, while our MC asked what makes the Goblin King so much different from a normal goblin. Hadi claims he's way stronger, and might even be immune to magic, so the hero realizes this is his toughest opponent yet, and decides to keep his distance. When the hero asks what's next, he's told the guild is stocking up, and that starting tomorrow, the bounty for every goblin kill is jumping by 50%, with 50 adventurers joining the hunt. Our hero realized he'd been hanging around way too long and had to bounce, so he apologized and asked for the full scoop on how his squad got raided. Katie wants to keep this a total secret and make sure almost nobody finds out. Our hero knew running wasn't an option, so he thanked the guy and said it was time to move while T apologized for slowing him down. Our hero asks who this guy works for, and when he finds out it's the guild leader, he thinks Hades is a total legend. Our hero was relieved it was just goblins, but he was totally kicking himself for skipping that combat survival guide. He rushed home and apologized for being late, totally convinced his girlfriend had some kind of crazy sixth sense. The hero told her they seriously needed to talk, and even though she could tell something was totally wrong just by looking at him, he said he'd spill the beans once the whole squad was together. She figured it was all because of his condition, and he admitted she was right but said he couldn't explain yet and would tell her everything tomorrow. Liz agreed to wait until tomorrow, and the guy thanked her while apologizing for the huge hassle. She told him to stop saying sorry because she was just super worried about him. Last time he was shaking like crazy, but now he's got a squad to watch his back and healing magic to keep him in the fight. Even if he's totally freaked out and wants to run for his life, he just can't bring himself to ditch the girls. He was stressing over how to drop the big news, while Fee sided with the group because she thought they were all just having a massive fight. He told them they were heading to the negotiation room, and she knew right away he had some major news to drop. The hero asks the girls if they know goblins raid the place every year, but they just tell him the knights usually handle it. The heroes are warning everyone that the invasion is hitting way earlier than expected, and since the knights won't make it in time, the travelers are the only ones left to protect the village. He warned them this was top secret, and they couldn't tell a soul since he was under a strict order to keep his mouth shut. This horde is packing 400 goblins, which is basically double the size of the entire village. The girls said they might look tiny and weak, but when they swarm together, they can cause some serious chaos. The guild is already making moves with a super simple plan. Take down as many goblins as possible before the big battle even starts. Our hero knew they had to gear up and figured the guild would spot them alone, and even though the girl was stoked for a new weapon, the boy pointed out that switching now would take. The girl warns him that the goblin count has exploded since yesterday and things are getting super dangerous, while our hero realizes that just being in this forest is a total drag. After grinding his skills, he realized his magic only reaches about 20 meters, and for now, that's his absolute limit. He really wanted to stay back and just chuck his spear, but he had zero clue how to actually throw the thing. The hero paused for a second and then thanked the girl for totally taking down that goblin. Liz says their bag is totally stuffed after taking out 80 goblins, so the heroes decide to call it a day since they finally hit their daily goal. She's already counting the cash for today's hunt, knowing one goblin gets her 2,000, which adds up to a sweet 160,000. But if they take down, she was totally shocked by the massive pile of cash, and after adding their savings to that 50% monster hunting bonus, everyone walked away with a cool 60,000. She'd never seen that much cash in her life, and the wallet was so heavy it looked like it was gonna pop any second. The girls started gearing up for tomorrow. The guy was actually hyped to be in a bad mood, and they all headed straight for the weapon shop. The guy thanks them for the buy and says he'll deliver it in 2 days, so the girls head out to train while the MC tells them to stay safe and asks the blacksmith to upgrade his weapon. The guy told them he'd never heard a request that crazy in his entire life. The guy told him not to stress over pain. The blacksmith said the price was 5,000. He promised the gear would be ready in 4 days. Our hero thanked him and headed out. Our MC was totally doubting his water powers and had zero clue how to actually fight with them, so he decided to hit up a friend for some help. The kid told him the lessons were a huge help, and while Bastiat was stoked to hear it, the hero was already asking to dive into water magic. The MC reveals he's got water magic, and the boy thinks it's super useful since they'll never run out of stuff to drink. He didn't know much about using water to fight, but since every traveler needs a drink, he figured he'd try mixing it with his lightning to give it the range and power it was missing. The hero starts chanting the spell, but the guy stops him and hands him a bucket instead. It was just cold water, and the guy complained that he should have at least used boiling water on his enemies. For now, our hero figured this was more than enough. She was totally shocked he actually showed up, and after a hero mentioned his girlfriend was busy training with a friend, he headed straight for the wizard. She told him he looked totally wiped out and asked if he'd even slept at all. She tells him that since they're family and she sees him as her own son, he doesn't have to keep his problems to himself because they're always ready to help him out. He suddenly remembered his boss telling him those exact same words. She told him he wasn't alone anymore, and he thanked her for having his back. His magic hasn't leveled up one bit, and only his basic skills got a tiny bit better. Our hero knew he had to get way stronger. He stopped rushing and totally locked in on his goal. He just wanted to be powerful enough to keep the girls safe. The meat was super juicy and delicious, and while the man talked about stocking up for winter, he warned the girl she'd definitely put on some weight if she kept eating like that. He laughed and told her he really wanted to see her like that, but Liz shut him down instantly, making our hero feel like all his worries just totally vanished. He was pretty shy, but he had to get those basic moves down. He's definitely getting way tougher, switching from his usual 50-minute routine to grinding for over an hour straight. Ever since he landed in this world, he's become a total beast, which is wild because he used to get winded just by moving around. The girl told him to stop pushing himself so hard and begged him to quit trying to handle everything by himself. He says sorry and admits it's just an old habit because he's used to doing everything on his own. Liz told him it makes her super sad when he pushes himself to the limit like that, and the whole crew is honestly really worried about him. The hero thanked her for always having his back and said he was super grateful. But even though he knew she cared, he was totally clueless about her real feelings as he promised to start leaning on her. Our hero is done being a burden, and he knows if he doesn't help out, he'll just look like a total freeloader. So he's pushing his limits to get strong enough to take them on, and all she wants is to stay by his side for the rest of her life. The hero says today is all about team practice against the horde and goblins, and he's already spotted 10 targets nearby that he'll handle in a bit. The guy begged the girls to wait up for him. He tried to picture the air lifting him higher, but he was seriously struggling to keep up with their speed. He spots 2 goblins and can tell by the way they're acting that they're definitely scouts. He spotted 3 more goblins, but there were so many of them that he didn't even have to go looking. The hero took one look at the goblins and realized they were split into 3 groups: scouts, hunters, and the total cowards who run away from everything. Every now and then, he'd catch those goblins getting into huge fights with each other. Our guy figured he'd finally collected enough to get the job done. He said sorry for the holdup, and the girls were just hyped to have him back. The boy warned them that the goblins were almost there, telling the girls to take the front line while he watched their backs. The hero told them to watch each other's backs, keep their guard up, and strike the second they saw an opening. He knew if they let their guard down, the goblins would totally swarm them, so he grabbed his training weapon to keep them back. The hero cheered the girls on, telling them to keep pushing, stay alert, and never let their guard down. He had to heal Lisa's wound fast because she was definitely in a ton of pain. He worried he'd moved too fast and they weren't ready for this training, but then Fia wiped out the very last goblin. He healed her so perfectly that the scar completely vanished, and she told him to stop stressing because they had to get back to their team training right away. He shouted that he wasn't quitting and promised they'd redo the team battle tomorrow. But for now, they had to call it a day, grab the evidence, and head back to the village. She was totally grossed out by the goblin's guts, but the hero told her she needed to get a better look. The goblin's stomach was totally empty, even though it was carrying tons of food, making the girl realize they were being forced to hunt. The guy says that even with all that food, their stomachs are still totally empty. He figured they were just grabbing food for a boss, since even these goblins have their own ranks.